Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. A little bit of a smaller group than normal this evening, but that's actually sort of perfect because this gives us a little bit of intimacy for our conversation tonight. So I want to welcome everyone to our third Get Living Live webinar of 2021. We're talking about the theme of this month, which is March Mayhem, not to be confused with March Madness, slightly different vibe there. And we're going to be talking about something that I'm really excited to share with you all today. A little bit different than I think what most of us are doing in our day-to-day, which I think will make it all the more necessary and beneficial for us. But first, before we get started, I want to hand it over to Amitesh, who is one of our amazing student leaders. You've heard from him before, who wrote this monthly initiative in collaboration with Samantha Greenfield, who actually is running a little bit late, but hopefully will be able to join us. So Amitesh, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about March Mayhem and why you guys thought it was so important.
Sure. Thank you, Marie. Yeah, so March Mayhem, the main background of it is that, March is one of the craziest times of the year. Personally, for school, a lot of my assignments pick up. I have exams in a month, so it's kind of getting a little stressful. And, it's easy to get like buried under all of this like heft of work and stress. So it's really important to take some time out of the day. Every day is important to kind of like have some mindful time. It can be playing an instrument. It's what I like to do. I like to play piano. It could be meditating. It could be going out for a walk with your friends, listening to a podcast, just something that's not stressful, something that's not like work all the time. Just take a break, essentially. And we tried to challenge, students and adults across the nation this past month to possibly take 20 minutes at least per day during March just to do something mindful and limit their phone usage to 2 hours a day. So don't go over 2 hours. And I think March 3rd of this month was also National Day of Unplugging. So we kind of challenged everyone to stay off their phone the entire day for that day. And yeah, so the essential like motto of March Mayhem is to stay mindful and stay away from anything stressful.
Thank you, Amitesh. Yeah, and I think that I know everyone here has been practicing the March Mayhem mission for the past 25 days, but we really wanted to round out the month by maybe giving you a new tool in your toolbox to be a little mindful, to take some time away from your devices and to just decompress a little bit. And this March marks an anniversary of probably the most mayhemic March most of us have ever known. And we're still feeling a lot of mayhem over in my part of the country. I know we're representing some diversity of geography here, but I think that it's safe to say we all need a little less mayhem. So hopefully our speaker today will be able to help us with that a little bit. I'm really thrilled to introduce Jamie. She is a phenomenal member of the Digital Wellness Collective, who I've come to know, and she's actually one of the directors of the Digital Wellness Collective. And I will allow her to introduce herself and her amazing practices that she's going to share with us today. So Jamie, I will hand it to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the impactful work that everyone is doing, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with everyone tonight. And although there's a lot of mayhem in this world, it's not going away. So how can we have actionable practices that are realistic, that are agile, and practice compassion so we can continue evolving and digitally flourishing? So amidst the mayhem, a few practices that we can explore today and right now is just breathing and connecting to our breath as a way to stay grounded. And an instant gratification practice better than any social media is just smiling. When you smile, your brain automatically secretes happiness hormones, and you're able to support your flourishing inside and out. So I'm really excited to dive into all things digital wellness and the spectrum of tech usage, because at the Digital Wellness Institute and the Flourishing team, we're really trying to educate people on how to rethink our relationships with technology and let go of the shaming storyline and choose to use it with intentions. So I'm really excited for today's conversations.
I'm really, really excited too. And I know Amitesh has some good questions for you prepared. I kind of wanted to start by, I think pretty much everyone in the room right now is really aware of the connection between distracted driving and digital wellness, and the way that those habits that you form outside of the car really inform your presence of mind and being undistracted while you're behind the wheel of the car. So I guess maybe what I would love to hear from you as sort of the digital wellness and mindfulness expert in the space right now. Everyone else here is really more coming at this from the traffic safety angle. So what is digital wellness, and why does it have to do with mindfulness? And you mentioned digital flourishing, which I think is a concept that came up in our conversation earlier that I think would be a really great starting point for us today.
Absolutely. So as we mentioned, that spectrum of tech usage, digital flourishing is capable for anyone to achieve. So when we're able to have this awareness with our relationship with technology, we can choose to be present in the moment, especially when we're in the car. So those things that we've encountered, like FOMO or our phone dinging and making all these noises, when we practice intentionality and choose to remove those distractions by altering our notification settings and reminding ourselves that it can wait until later, are little things that make a huge difference, especially when we're traveling.
Yes, definitely. I think that that's so key for all of us, especially whose work is a lot of the work that folks in this room are doing is, how do we make sure that that connection between this traffic safety space and responsible tech use, mindful tech use space is like, we want to make sure that connection is really strong, because we know that that's so important. Especially as we spend more time than ever in front of a screen, which obviously, I say this every month, but the catch-22 here is not lost on me that we're talking about this behind screens. But maybe you can talk a little bit about, digital spaces and the way that we can mindfully create those spaces, and maybe figuring out how to be present when we are not physically present.
Absolutely. And there's lots of layers there, but I think the main key to presence is our awareness of what's calling our attention. A lot of times when we're reaching for our phone or any external factors, there's a deeper reason if we choose to have that level of awareness to get curious and think, why is it that I'm reaching for my phone? What is it that I'm really craving or looking for? And that's why I love digital flourishing as a way to approach this conversation and topic, because it's not just about your friends or your relationships. There's 8 different pillars of digital flourishing, including physical health, mental health, quantified self, digital citizenship. There's a myriad of topics where there's something deeper often going on, and there might be a different way to approach that need or desire in a healthy way that supports you. So, for example, physical health, if you're driving and slunched over and your back hurts and you might want to Google a chiropractor or something because you want that instant gratification, thinking you might need that extra thing, well, you can just put your shoulders back and put your head up and connect to your breathing and realign with your physical body and support your physical health. So there's definitely lots of layers there, and I'm sure there's many examples and instances that we've all encountered of those moments of, do I choose tech or can I figure this out myself?
I think that's a great point. And the instinct to Google everything is a hard one to combat for sure. I guess I'm hoping that we can maybe sort of do some work right now. I know we talked about, what's within the realm of the possible in a virtual platform, but I think it would be really awesome to kind of, before we continue the conversation, to sort of put some of these or maybe one of these practices to the test together.
Yes, well, it seems like we've all been breathing and smiling. So we're already 2 practices in. So I'm really grateful for all of us having these agility in action moments. But one of the ways we love to start our Zoom calls are with a moment of presence and really connecting with the power of pausing. So if y'all are open to doing this practice right now, I invite us all to create some distance between our physical technology. Maybe take a step back or scoot back your seat and get really comfortable. I got my Digital Wellness Collective sweatshirt, so I'm super cozy today. So as you get settled, perhaps get really straight in your seat. Notice that your sit bones on the surface beneath you. Roll your shoulders back, stand really tall, but try not to be overextending yourself. Imagine a string going all the way up the center of your body and above your head, tucking your chin in and getting really centered and aligned. Perhaps your feet are flat on the floor, feeling the groundedness of the energy releasing through your feet and just getting really comfortable in your structured body. Inhaling and filling all the way up. Notice the sensation of fullness. All of the mayhem of March and everything for this past year is so filled to capacity. And then choosing to let it all go and take a really deep exhale. You can imagine as you exhale, the energy releasing through your body and out your feet into the floor and back into the earth. So as we continue connecting to our breath and breathing in this space connected to our physical body, I'm going to remove my glasses and I invite any of y'all to remove anything that feels comfortable and get really present in your space. Perhaps maybe even closing your eyes and imagining something that makes you smile. I'm imagining nature and greenery, the feeling of sunshine on my skin, and taking another deep breath in, imagining sunlight entering through the crown of my head into my body, nourishing every cell with fresh oxygen. And then exhaling and letting it all go, cleansing everything. Now the breath is our tempo, and we're always breathing. But sometimes when we're using technology or we're distracted with the mayhem, we might hold our breath or start breathing more shortly. So in any moment when you feel that tension, remind yourself that you have the power with your breath to connect back. So taking a pause and breathing, inhaling life force energy into your body, and then resetting, letting it all go. As you breathe, send the air to your belly. As humans, we are born to breathe into our bellies. It isn't until the age of 3 that we start breathing into our lungs. And because of society, many of us just breathe shortly into our chest. So breathing all the way deeply into our bellies, a big belly breath. This is a 6-pack free virtual zone filled with love. So breathe and fill your belly up with air. Letting it all go. So the breath is an amazing practice to connect with, and that's a foundational practice to meditation, realigning with your physical body, and just supporting your immune system, your strength, and fueling every system inside of you. But another way to connect is also through our senses. I love exploring through sensory discovery, noticing the taste of water when I'm drinking, or the texture of food that I'm eating, perhaps the sound of my notifications on my phone, or the sound of beautiful chimes that bring me back into the moment. So amidst the busyness of life, the constant on of technology in our digital world, we can always return back to the moment, as the present is our gift. In addition to centering in this way, another powerful practice that's so easy to incorporate anytime is reflexology. So through your hands, feet, and your ears, each of them are maps to your whole body. So to keep it simple, to start with the hands, you can feel your hands and notice if there's any tension. Just intuitively give yourself a massage and move through that tension. If there is tension, it's causing dis-ease. There's a block in your energy flow. So you need to let it all go. But it's great with Zoom, because if you're presenting or something and you want to stay centered and connect with your energy, my go-to is between the thumb and the index finger. There's this area here, and if it's tender, that's how you know you found the right spot. And when you massage or apply light pressure to this area, you're able to release that tension and relax your body. So this is a great hidden trick that I incorporate when I'm trying to ground my energy and be composed without being it on screen. But your hands are a great map to your body, and incorporating them into your meditation practice as you breathe is very powerful as well. So since we've been focusing on our breath for quite some time now, I trust that each of our breaths is becoming deeper and deeper every time as we're bringing our awareness to the length of the inhale, filling up all the way more, and then exhaling even longer, creating more space. As we do this, we can count on our fingers, perhaps inhaling for 4 seconds and exhaling for 4 seconds. So this is called a mudra. So when you connect your hands in this way, you're connecting to the rhythm of you. So the rhythm of your heartbeat, the tempo of your breath, the harmony of life. So if you want to get really fancy, you can add language with each tap. So I encourage you to make up your own mantras as to what feels good for you in the moment, especially if there's something happening where you want to call something in. Just intuitively speak with the rhythm. Peace begins with me. Slowing it down. Peace begins with me. I am here now. So really anything that comes to mind, you can say it out loud or in your head, but these are some of the practices that have really helped me stay grounded in our digital world and continue evolving while practicing boundaries with our technology. So say you have back-to-back Zoom calls and you need to stay focused, connecting with your breath in between those calls, or perhaps turning your video off and taking a moment, is really a great way to recharge and reset your system. So I know we covered a lot there, but I hope that they're foundational practices that you can continue incorporating throughout your journey in an intuitive way that feels good for you in any moment.
Thank you, Jamie. That was great, and I think those are really, like, it's nice. I think that it's nice that they're Zoom friendly. You can kind of do those out of frame. And I wanted to circle back to something that you and I talked about in our second conversation to prepare for this call. Actually, you mentioned that you found, because of, you know, sort of the fusion of our two topics here, you started practicing sensory discovery while you were driving. So I thought maybe, if you don't mind talking about that a little bit, I thought that would be really interesting for everyone here, just before I hand it over to Amitesh for a couple more questions.
Thank you so much. And it's really such a beautiful organization that y'all are a part of and changing this world with the work that you do. And I was just so inspired that every time I'm getting in the car now, I'm really thinking about this work and how we can continue supporting the future of life. And as I've been driving, I'm very guilty of sometimes my mind wanders, especially in our 25/8 life cycle of the digital world. There's so much to think about. And when we're lost in the mayhem in the mind, it can be very distracting. So I've been incorporating practices of if I know I'm going to be driving a certain amount of time, I'll find a meditation on Insight Timer that's music, so it's not like I'm gonna fall asleep or anything, but I'm present in the moment, in the space, and it's longer than the duration of my drive, so I'm not tempted to change the song or anything like that. I'm able to play the music and then put it in the console tucked away and be present in the drive, so I'll be breathing and connecting with the space and noticing the cars around me, the energy of those cars. You know how if somebody might be tailgating you, you feel that. Or if you might be accidentally too close to somebody else, there's an energy exchange on the road that when we're aware and present in that space, we can actually drive safer because we're aware and we're living in that moment. So seeing when other drivers are distracted and being hyper aware as to how we can travel safely. So the breathing while driving is so key because sometimes if I'm tense, I do live in New York, and driving can be a little bit tense, so I'll breathe and I'll put my shoulders back and I'll remind myself that I'm on time whenever I get there. There's never a rush. You know, I'm in the right time and space. I trust that everything happens for a reason and it's fine. So just breathe through it.
I love that. I think that's perfect. Amitesh, do you have any questions or thoughts that you want to add for Jamie?
Sure. Yeah. So, like, stress is pretty big, like, in everyone's life. How can mindfulness and like what you were talking about help us like change our perspective of stress? Stress is always like seen as like a pretty bad thing. And I think like maybe seeing it in a positive light to like maybe motivate us to like do like, accomplish something could possibly be a better perspective. Like, what do you think is a good way to like change our mindset and include that kind of sensory discovery and mindfulness?
I really appreciate this question because it's coming from the openness of that we can change our perspective. We can choose to look at this differently. So when we take a step back and change the lens or the frame and look at this differently, what is the stress here to teach us? What is this emotion, energy in motion, viscerally trying to awaken us to? And if we choose to respond to that stressful narrative in our mind with compassion and curiosity of why is my physical body feeling stressed and tension? Why is my mind automatically going here? With curiosity, and the inner child is a great practice for this as well. It's like, what would you say to a young friend? How would you console them in this moment? I think you might be afraid, and I honor this fear, and I know you're trying to keep me safe, but I am safe and I am going to be okay. So thank you for this reminder to be cautious. I hear your opinion, but I know everything's going to be safe and we're okay. So we're going to move on and we're not going to be stressed about this and we're going to breathe through it and let it all go. I hope that makes sense.
Awesome. Amitesh, do you have any other thoughts before we move into the discussion portion?
That was it for me. Like basically, I'm very like I really appreciate talking about how sensory discovery is very important. Like even the element of just like talking when you're like tapping your fingers like this is very important to accommodate all your senses and into the entire experience of being mindful. I think it's just very interesting.
Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to share just these really simple practices that have been so foundational to my flourishing flow. In regards to the pressure points, there's also one right here next to our ears where the ear meets the head. There's a little indent, and maybe if you're working by yourself and you're connected, it's like, but right below where your glasses line would be. And it's so helpful if I'm doing work or I might be feeling a headache coming on, just preemptively doing some circular spiral motions is so helpful. So I invite everyone to intuitively explore when they are feeling tension, just to have that awareness, because the body whispers before it screams. So if we are mindful and aware and notice, oh, I am starting to get some tension here. I wonder what's this here for? Then hopefully we can prevent it.
Amazing. I love that. I think that's the perfect moment to share our discussion questions. So I think we will break into pairs for this, and it'll be short. I'll give you guys like maybe 5 minutes to discuss, and you guys can see my slide, right?
Marie, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I just add one thing quickly?
Oh, please. Yeah.
I think it's very relevant, and I want to thank Jamie for bringing that mindfulness in. My other meeting that I was trying to do at the same time went 30 minutes over, and it was a very what was being discussed was budget and staffing, and it was getting me very, very angry. So to be able to do the mindfulness during that was actually perfect. Kept me calm. I could listen to what she was doing and still hear, process what was going on in the other one. But Jamie, thank you very much. It was perfect timing.
I feel like that's like the perfect example of when
I needed it.
These practices. Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. That's the best way to do it all and flourish in action. Matt, I'm so happy that you're able to practice it in action. Thank you so much for sharing.
No problem. Saved my heart tonight.
Amazing. Okay, so we're gonna have more time for conversation, questions. Y'all can definitely pick Jamie's brain a little bit in the last few minutes here, but I do want to take like 5 just to check in with each other and ourselves. These questions, as always, are a springboard. So basically, how are you mindful in your daily life, whether you call it that or not, right? Like going for a walk, drinking a glass of water quietly, that mindfulness looks a lot of different ways. And I know that when we talk about mindfulness, it feels like there's a capital M involved, but a lot of us are doing mindfulness work already without calling it that. And then the second question is, do you actually have what you would consider a practice? Or have you ever thought about it? I know that there's a lot of science and studies and floating around in like the general media about like the benefits of meditation. So I'm sure everyone has, either talked with friends about this or flirted with the idea, or maybe even has their own practice. So why or why not? And how can you set a goal for yourself that incorporates something that Jamie has taught us today? So those are definitely, like I said, conversation springboards. I think this is really fun. We actually have never had just pairs for the breakout rooms before. So you guys I think I've put everyone with someone that they are not already like super acquainted with. So you all obviously take a moment, introduce yourselves to one another, and let the conversation carry you. And I will give you a 1-minute warning before we come back in, and then we'll kind of share out and let the conversation continue a little bit from there, if that sounds good to all involved parties. I hope your conversations were fruitful, and I would love to hear if there's anything that y'all want to share from what you spoke about in your pairs with the full group.
I'll go ahead.
Awesome.
So I thought for Amitesh and I, it was a good conversation. You're talking about generational differences. I'm about ready to graduate from teaching and a long career, and he's getting ready to graduate from high school. But to see the ability that for different reasons, we both need to use these kind of programs and concepts to get through the things we're getting through, right? So it doesn't matter where you are. And I mentioned to him, it's great that he's starting to learn those now. Listen to you, Jamie, I felt like I was doing a lot of these things throughout my life and didn't realize it was mindfulness until a few years ago when it really was talked about. But it's really, really important to get through those things. And I think for me, the connection was, it's good to see those two different places in life, being able to use those to do what they need to do.
Amazing. I love that. Amitesh, do you want to add anything about your conversation?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Like we talked about, just staying mindful and like the sensory perception, like part as well. Like just the importance of accommodating the senses. And I talked about music a lot because music is a big part of my life, and it's just a really great way for me to do something I love, something I'm passionate about that doesn't cause me stress. And yeah, of course, the generational differences is still tough. Like the methods apply to both both sides. Like it's gonna help everyone no matter what. And I'm just gonna make sure to accommodate these routines a lot more in my life as I continue.
Fantastic. I love that. How about Carol and Lauren? You guys have anything you want to share?
Yeah, so the first question, which was like, how do you just be mindful in your daily life? We talked about how we always start our day with trying to spend less time on our phone. So waking up without touching your phone, doing all your morning routine stuff, but then how we have a hard time keeping that same energy throughout the day. So once it's like 9:30 or 10 a.m., we're just ready to go and on our phones and technology the whole day. But how with the new breathing techniques and the finger exercises that we've just learned, how we can incorporate that in our daily work days to be able to keep that mindfulness back and not just stop after the day gets hectic. So just trying to figure out new ways to incorporate it so we can actually stay mindful throughout the day.
Carol and I also share I don't know, what do we want to call it, poor character trait that we work like crazy. So we are trying to figure out more time that we can give just 5-7 minutes to a mindfulness practice instead of whatever else we may be doing or like getting involved in something else for work. So we all have 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. And just being able to know that you deserve the time to take a couple minutes away out of your day just to meditate or relax, because if we just keep working all day, like, yes, we're getting stuff done, but then we're just going to be exhausted. So there's always time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, I think it's a good sort of like mantra to return to, that you always have 5 minutes, which I think I'm going to put that one in my back pocket. And then last but certainly not least, Carrie, and maybe Carrie, you can start, and then Jamie, you can round us off here. I think that feels right.
Well, and I just speaking to what Lauren and Carol were saying about taking those 5 minutes, I find that when I don't, I always have to get up because I have animals and the dogs want in and out and in and out and in and out. So I have to break that way. But oftentimes, even if I work late like this and my brain gets going and I just want to get stuff done, it doesn't want to quiet down. So taking that time and then saying, hey, you know what, it's time to call it a night. And you need that detox time, mental detox time before going to try to sleep. And that was something I talked about too. We were talking about different times of the day that we would be mindful. And I said, I take little breaks throughout the day, but my main focus time is right before bed, just trying to be thankful for things that went on during the day or things that I'm grateful for. And that's how I just kind of settle at night to try and separate myself from all of this. Not you guys. I love you guys. I hate separating for you guys. I'm thinking about you guys all night long. That sounded creepy, but it wasn't. It was in a nice way.
Glad you said it.
So Jamie, I'm curious to hear, I think it seems like it's always funny on these. It seems like everyone is sort of circling the same, like the conversations diverge a little bit from the pre-appointed questions, but they're all kind of going the same direction. I love that. Curious to hear your thoughts on your conversation and everything you've heard from everyone.
Yes, and thank you for sharing, everyone. It was so beautiful to learn from everyone's perspectives and just having that open mind to see what other people's interpretations are of the routines and the rituals is always so interesting. And the common theme I'm feeling here is just how do we keep this going in a way that's sustainable and realistic? And even if you don't have 5 minutes, because I hear the voice of, you don't have 5 minutes, you have like one breath. Like that's really all it takes to reset. So just having that breather. And I've had moments where I have, 3 minutes until my next Zoom call, and I'm like, oh, I can do so much in 3 minutes. If you just have 3 breaths, it can feel like so long. So remembering that you had that time, and when you take those bathroom breaks, don't bring your phone in there. Breathe, make that your meditation time, because it's going to happen. So having that time of you're just breathing, you're resetting, you're washing your hands, and you're getting back to it, cleaning and clearing. So I think that's a huge practice. And Carrie, I loved what you mentioned about your gratitude practice in the evening. Just in any moment, coming back to gratitude of, I'm so grateful that, I have all of this work that needs to be done because I'm here to do it. But remembering that it can happen later, and especially after our call tonight, I know my brain's going to be going because I'm so inspired by all of these conversations. But when we do need to have those boundaries, Maria and I have talked about our tucking away tech rituals. So even though you're really creative, super fired up, at a certain time, you can tuck away your technology, go pen to paper, write your notes down, see how creative flow just falls from you into the pen, and really connect that. And then also looking at your agenda for the next day and carving out that time for you to breathe or eat lunch away from a screen, or even look out the window and blink. Our eye health, we forget to blink. So even if you just blink, that counts. So we're all taking care of ourselves all the time, and I'm really appreciative that we could cover all these topics, and I'm excited for all of us to be like Matt and incorporate it during our calls.
Amazing. I'm feeling like I definitely am gonna enter the workday tomorrow with some intentionality. So before, I want to be mindful of time. So before we wrap, does anyone have any questions or other thoughts or feelings they want to add for Jamie or just for the room before we close out? Go for it, Carrie.
Jamie said she was going to share her, we were talking about sound bowls and sounds refocusing us, and she said she would share a link for those sound bowls. So I just wanted to remind her.
Yes, if you Google Tibetan tones, it's called Tibetan Tones, and the Sonic Wellness Institute, both of you bring you to the same website. And the Sonic Wellness Institute offers online trainings, and Tibetan Tones ships these hand-hammered bowls from Nepal. They are so beautiful, and I could talk about them for hours on a separate call. So I want to be mindful of time, but I'd love to close with
That was nice. That was like, put me a little bit to sleep.
I know. I think that's the perfect place to close.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for coming. Thank you, everyone, for your thoughts. And we will be back again next month for a sort of special edition of GetLiving Live on the 25th, and invitations are forthcoming. Thank you all so much. Have a great night.